When helping others costs your home. Lessons from the invisible crisis. Have you ever wondered what would happen if the safety net you've spent your life weaving for others suddenly disappeared from beneath your own feet? 3 weeks ago, I sat across from Regine Raphael, a woman whose eyes held both unimaginable pain and unwavering determination. As she shared her story of experiencing homelessness for the third time while trying to help her family get ahead, now residing in a domestic violence shelter, I realized something profound. The most dangerous sacrifices are often the ones we don't see coming, especially when they're made in the name of love. Regina isn't just surviving her circumstances, she's illuminating them for others. Through her willingness to share her journey, she's bringing visibility to an invisible crisis that affects millions. Her courage in speaking truth to power, even from a place of vulnerability, makes her one of the most impactful voices in our ongoing conversation about housing justice and racial equity. Trouble doesn't last always, Regine told me, her voice steady despite everything. This wisdom, offered from someone currently navigating one of life's most brutal storms, stopped me in my tracks. What Regine's journey reveals isn't just a personal tragedy, it's a mirror reflecting systemic failures that disproportionately impact Black women and families. Her story illuminates how quickly the ground can shift beneath anyone's feet, particularly when racial disparities, family obligations, and domestic violence converge. The numbers tell a devastating story that most of us never see. In Santa Clara County, Black residents make up less than 3% of the population, but account for 15% of those experiencing homelessness. In Philadelphia, the disparity is even more stark. 66% of the unhoused population is African American. These aren't just statistics, they're people like Regine, whose lives have been shaped by historical policies that limited housing and economic opportunities for people of color. Let me take you to Santa Clara County for a moment. Imagine growing up in a community where housing discrimination wasn't just common, it was codified. Where your grandparents couldn't buy homes in certain neighborhoods, where your parents paid higher interest rates for mortgages, where your job applications were overlooked because of your name or address. This isn't ancient history. This is the lived reality that created today's disparities. The county's 2023 homeless census revealed that Black, Latino, and Asian American residents are bearing the disproportionate weight of this crisis. Decades of systemic racism in housing, employment, and law enforcement have left many families of color living on the brink of displacement. One missed paycheck, one medical emergency, one family crisis. That's all it takes to push someone from barely making it to not making it at all. But here's what keeps me up at night. When we prioritize helping family members get ahead, we sometimes put ourselves in vulnerable positions. This sacrifice, while coming from a place of love, can lead to housing instability. The data confirms what Regine experienced. Persons and families make up a significant portion of the homeless population. In Alexandria alone, 65 out of 166 homeless individuals were persons and families. I want you to sit with that for a moment. 65 people without homes, not because they made poor choices, but because they made sacrifice for their families. I remember asking Regine what she wished people understood about her situation. Taking the hello when given, she said, such a simple phrase that carries the weight of a profound truth. Sometimes accepting help is the strongest thing we can do. Let's be honest with ourselves. How many of us have been raised with the message that we must be the rock for our families, no matter the personal cost. How many of us, especially as Black women, have internalized the expectation that we should sacrifice everything, including our own stability, for those we love? This isn't just about individual choices, it's about systems that make those choices impossible. In Franklin County, homelessness has seen the largest cumulative increase in the community's history, 7.4% in 2025 alone, following a staggering 22% increase in 2022. The county has continued to see year over year increases. This persistent crisis demonstrates how even individuals who are working to support themselves and their families can fall into homelessness due to systemic issues in housing affordability. High eviction rates and housing costs have pushed more people into homelessness, including those who may have previously been housing secure. People like Regine, who found herself homeless not once, not twice, but three times while trying to help her family get ahead. The cruel irony is that in trying to be someone else's safety net, Regine lost her own. But there's another layer to this crisis that we must confront. Domestic violence and homelessness are deeply interconnected issues. Many victims face an impossible choice between staying in unsafe homes or becoming homeless. This was part of Regine's reality too, as she now resides in a domestic violence shelter. Yet, even here, there are glimmers of hope. In Alexandria, Virginia, their domestic violence program contributed to an 11% decrease in overall homelessness by effectively housing people served by the program. The city recognized the link between domestic violence and homelessness and prioritized addressing both issues simultaneously. As a result, Alexandria achieved a situation where 92% of those experiencing homelessness were sheltered, with only 8% living in unsheltered conditions. This success story demonstrates how targeted interventions for specific vulnerable populations can have a significant impact on overall homelessness rates. It shows that with the right support, Regine's current shelter stay could lead to stable housing. But we can't wait for programs to save us. We need to recognize the warning signs of housing instability in our own lives and the lives of our loved ones. Do you know the resources available in your community for homelessness prevention and domestic violence support? Have you ever advocated for policies that address the racial disparities in homelessness and housing insecurity? These aren't abstract questions. They're matters of survival for people like Regine. I want to be clear about something. Supporting family is important, but not at the expense of your own basic needs and safety. This isn't selfish, it's sustainable. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you certainly cannot provide stable support without stable housing. Regine's wisdom, take the hello when given, reminds us to reach out for help early rather than waiting until crisis point. Pride has no place when your safety and shelter are at risk. As I listened to Regine share her journey, I felt a range of emotions that I imagine you're feeling now: concern and empathy hearing about her challenges, righteous anger when confronting the systemic issues and racial disparities, hope when learning about successful programs like Alexandria's, and ultimately inspiration from Regine's resilience and wisdom that trouble doesn't last always. The truth is, homelessness can happen to anyone, even those who seem to have it all together, even those who are helping others, even you, even me. So, what do we do with this knowledge? First, we must acknowledge that the systems we live within were not designed for everyone to succeed. Decades of systemic racism in housing, employment, and law enforcement have left many families and individuals of color living on the brink of displacement due to low wages and high rent burdens. This isn't accidental. It's the result of historical policies that created generational disadvantages that continue today. Second, we must recognize our own vulnerability. No matter how secure you feel right now, circumstances can change rapidly. The safety nets we assume will catch us, family, friends, savings, credit, can fray or disappear altogether. Third, we must redefine what it means to be strong. Strength isn't just about what you can endure, it's about knowing when to ask for help. It's about taking the hello when given, as Regine so wisely put it. And finally, we must act not just for ourselves, but for each other. Familiarize yourself with local resources. Advocate for policies that address racial disparities in housing. Support organizations that help domestic violence survivors find safe housing. Check in on friends and family who might be struggling. I stand before you today not just as a speaker, but as a witness to both the heartbreak and the hope embodied in Regine's story. Her journey challenges us to confront uncomfortable truths about who bears the burden of our broken systems and who pays the price for our collective failure to address them. Today, I'm asking you to make a commitment. When you leave this room, find one tangible way to address housing insecurity in your community, whether that's volunteering at a shelter, donating to housing assistance programs, advocating for policy change, or simply checking in on someone who might be struggling. Do something, because the distance between housed and unhoused isn't measured in miles, but in moments. Remember Regine's words: trouble doesn't last always, but neither will change come without action. The invisible crisis of homelessness becomes visible when we choose to see it, when we recognize ourselves in the stories of others, and when we understand that our individual security is bound up in our collective responsibility to each other. The question isn't whether we'll face troubles. The question is whether we'll face them alone or together, whether we'll perpetuate systems that leave people like Regine vulnerable, or whether we'll build new systems that ensure everyone has a safe place to call home. The choice is ours. And for Regine's sake, for all our sakes, I hope we choose wisely.